Quiet on set!
Hello and welcome to the Sunday Millennial. I am your temporary host, Kyler. We are joined by Donald.
Hello, Kyler.
How are you doing, Donald?
I'm doing just well. You look different.
Yeah,
Usually you're
different seat.
there.
You know what it feels like to be the moderator. We have CJ on the board.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
It's going. We have a new guest. We have James. Thank you for joining us, James.
Absolutely. Good evening, gentlemen.
So, James, like we do always on the Sunday Millennial, we go right to our guests. So, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, my name is James Michaud, and I grew up in Philly until I was 9, parochial school till I was 9, and then I moved to Pine Grove, Schuylkill County, a little bit different. My parents owned a hunting cabin in Pine Grove, and we decided to make the move and graduated from Pine Grove in 2002. Went on to do my undergrad at Kutztown University. Got a degree in secondary education with an emphasis on citizenship education. So basically a social studies teacher. Ended up landing a job in Lancaster at the Manheim Township School District. And I've been there for 14 years now. Did my my master's at Alvernia University. Graduated from there in 2014. And yeah, so I'm currently a teacher at Manheim Township School District in Lancaster. I teach 8th grade American history. Married to my beautiful wife, Lauren, who is also a teacher. She's a 7th grade art teacher at Manheim Township School District. We reside within the Manheim Township School District as well. We have a little girl. She's 2.5. Her name's Elowen, and she's a pistol. And
It's a cute name.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very unique. And so yeah, that's me professionally. From a side perspective, I got a couple different hustles going on in my life. One of the things that I have is I have a side business I have with my father. We do pretty much. I wouldn't give myself just a description of making a furniture maker, but rather a maker in general. Mixed materials, iron, wood, leather, concrete, stone, you name it. And we've been doing that for a good while, but it really has ramped up the past 3 years. So yeah, that's me.
So, how has the whole coronavirus thing impacted you? Obviously, as a teacher, but then also as with your side business as well. Has it, helped, or has it kind of hurt business a little bit?
So it's been really crazy since March 10th. March 10th, we got the call from Governor Wolf, and, everything's going to be shut down. So we had about a 3-week layoff period where our school district was going to figure out what we were going to do. And in that three-week period, we pulled my daughter, well, not even pulled her, she couldn't even go to daycare. So we were all at home. Our whole family was at home, obviously, like everybody else. And kind of we were just settled down, hunkering down like everybody else in America. And when that happened, I got a large influx of people who contacted me, who were sitting idle in their homes, who wanted things done for their homes. I mean, they looked at their living room, their dining room, their home in general, and they said, hey, we want you to do this for us. So from a small business perspective and my side hustle, that ramped up to the nth degree. Since March 10th, I've been so busy with work. I'm booked out till November now. And then from an educational perspective, we took that 3-week hiatus, and then we got back in with virtual learning. We basically went full throttle virtual. We run through the Schoology platform, which I'm very comfortable doing. But it was a different type of period. I would say that I didn't enjoy it as much as I do, with in-person teaching. There's just really that authentic feel you get in the classroom wasn't there. No matter how many Zoom meetings you hold or things you try to do, it was a rather unique time. And
yeah, does your district, or are you guys one-to-one? Do you guys, everyone have devices?
Yeah, so everybody in our district has an iPad, and they actually still have them to this day, with the possibility that we're not going to go back in the fall. So
I've seen on I forget what every commercial that's on right now, when Corona happened, it went from like a normal commercial about a car or something like that to people on Zoom meetings, and you just get like a person like in a square. And I hated those commercials so bad. I can only imagine what it's like teaching somebody and you just see like 30 little blocks of kids and who the heck's talking? You know what I mean?
Well, when if you have a class, like my largest classes are like 30, 26, 30, you get 12 people that show up. And then you're responsible for reaching out and making connections with those families for the people who are not in those meetings and making sure that they're following through. And it's a daunting task. It's a task that's just new to everyone, and it was a real struggle. It was a very big learning experience.
What do you think in terms of effectiveness? Like if you had a almost maybe not grade it, but like a percentage, like in class they get 70% of the material you talk about, right? And then in Zoom, what's like the adhesion? Like what do kids actually absorb anything? Is there like once we started doing Zoom meetings, kids got smarter, or no, once we started doing Zoom meetings, it went down to 5%?
Yeah, it was tough. So like I could say pretty confidently that going through the curriculum was more of a chore to get through what we needed to get through the end of the year, because of the lack of participation. You push things out to people and you have 50% of the people who are accomplishing those tasks. Well, half of your day, you're busy catching all those other people up, while those people who originally did the assignment are sitting stagnant, waiting for you to produce something else and push something else out to you. So as a teacher, it was really tough. It was really tough getting everybody to be in sync. And after the first week, it was gone. I mean, it was gone. But like I said, like the authenticity of the actual teaching of the curriculum, it was gone virtually for me anyway. It was gone.
Damn.
Well, that's the thing that like I've experienced too, is just you can't go as deep with online learning. And the other thing, when we would have Zoom meetings and we would have discussions, in school, you could actually call out kids. Like if you want them to answer a question in Zoom, they can just have it muted. They don't really need to say anything, or attendance is usually an issue, like you said.
Mute the screen and mute your audio. Now,
did you see a lot of participation early on and then it start to fade out as summer came about, or what?
No, we actually, I saw the least amount of participation at the beginning. And then what's really nice is that, in the middle school, I teach in the middle school, so we have a team teaching approach, and our administrators and our team is really, really good about reaching out to families. And we actually saw the participation increase as we went through our school year.
That's great. Yeah. That's really good. Yeah, and this will be something that we'll be seeing this fall as well, and kind of leads us into our topic of schools and reopening. So my first question for you guys is just what do you think is going to happen in the fall? Do you think schools will reopen? If you were the administrator, what would be your plan? So. Start with you, James.
That is a loaded.
I know.
Loaded
How do you answer that thing?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that's
good luck.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a position that I am glad that I am not in.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it all starts with your school board too. So, our school district is making that decision at the end of July. And I applaud them for doing so and waiting for the governor's, recommendations for what to do. And I look forward to hearing what they're going to say and what their recommendations are and how they're going to go through everything. But it's something that no matter what you do, there's going to be people who are going to be unhappy about it.
Right. There's no right answer, even if it's the best. Like, I think what the problem with being a governor right now, like being Tom Wolf, is that even if he did everything right, no one's going to like it right now, because nobody's going to like less things that they can do. Nobody's going to want to be able to do less things in their summer. Like if there was, let's say Tom Wolf had two options at the beginning of summer. One was to 6 foot distance, masks at every store, 25% capacity, or it was 8 foot distancing, masks in every store and outdoors. And then there was also 10% capacity. You know what I mean? Like, so he picked probably one of the lesser two evils. I'm sure it's that's what you have to do as a leader.
You have to.
He picks the lesser of two evils, but to us, it's still evil. People are just, I see it on Facebook, which is just, I say it every episode. I always see it on Facebook, but I see it on Facebook.
Everything's on Facebook.
It's always the worst thing I see too. Like it'll be someone that once again I went to school with or something, and they just have their really strong opinion, and everyone's entitled to their strong opinions, but to what degree will you get something accomplished by spouting it on Facebook? I don't know. It gets me to see it, I guess. But you'll see someone say something like Tom Wolf is an idiot and he should be out of office. And I'm not saying I don't like Tom Wolf, but I'm not the guy sitting in office and have to do it. I'm glad I don't, right? Like you said, you're glad you don't have to make that decision. I'm super pumped I don't, because I'm underqualified. And that's why I like, getting guys like you on to talk about stuff like this, because you will actually, and Kyler as well, he's a teacher too, will kind of, I think, open people's eyes to what really we have as options. You know what I mean? Like, what can we actually do? What is best case scenario? What is worst case scenario? And what you think we should do, or what we even should do.
Yeah. And the one thing, like with that, so you have these options and you take one, but you don't know what the results are, right? So we don't know what the results would have been if no one would have wore masks, or if no one would have mandated that. So you'll never know. And so that uncertainty also plays a big role. But let me rephrase the question, I guess. So what about part-time? So students going to part-time. So some of the things that I've heard out there is that, half the school comes in one day, the other half comes in the next day. Or so basically you'd see your students 2 days out of the week.
Sure.
Do you think that would be effective?
So I haven't heard anything concrete from any of the schools in Pennsylvania. I think only last I read was about like 100 of the schools in PA out of the 500 plus have submitted their plans for what they're going to do for the fall. And there's, like you said, there's really no good answer, and every district's going to do something different. But there has to be some measures taken given the number of people who are in each specific school. So like in our high school, we have 2,000 plus people in that high school. One of our elementary schools, we have 250, so I think each individual school within each district has to be treated differently. I was reading online about some districts in other states who are having their elementary schools move to the high school to accommodate the numbers, but be able to spread them out because their high schools are larger in size, and then having the middle school and high school students be virtual. So that's an option.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think I talked about it a couple episodes ago about how, you said school by school, each district should treat it differently as if it's a different district, which makes total sense. I think what we talked about was, Maine versus Florida and the difference that they have in terms of coronavirus and what they should do differently. Because if the federal government came out with a mandate that said everybody needs to do this across the entire country, it would make no sense. We're in Pennsylvania. Why would I have to do the exact same thing someone in Montana would have to do? So that's why I think when a lot of times people get it conflated that when one thing comes out as information that one school is doing, it's probably working for them or it was their best option, which doesn't mean that everybody should be doing that, right? Because it's not that Governor Wolf is going to say that. I mean, he will have influence on certain things, but I think it will also come down to the school level, what they can and can't do, what they have options to do.
Yeah, and I think that's what he announced a couple of days ago, and that it's going to be let up to each individual school district to decide.
I like that.
What they're going to do.
Yeah, I think that's the best way.
If you think about it geographically too, like the hottest spots in PA are Allegheny County and Philadelphia County.
Yeah.
We're kind of in the middle.
Yep.
If you look at Schuylkill County, I mean, the rates here are very small compared to other counties. So I think that's a good approach initially, but it obviously needs to be a lot more specific.
Yeah. You also have to consider resources too. Every school has different resources. For example, your school's 1-to-1, they have the devices. So the transition may be a little easier where other schools like our school here, we aren't 1-to-1 yet. That's something that the school district is trying to get to, but we're not there yet. So each student doesn't have a device. So number one, how do you get them those devices? And then, there's some other boundaries there as well, but definitely resources plays a pretty big role. What about, and Donald, you big into sports as well, how is sports going to be impacted, even professionally, NFL, but also high school sports? Yeah. And I know for PA anyways, they talked about, as of now, they're going to move forward with sports, but that could always change. So what impact would that maybe have?
The only thing that I've really seen recently was in the collegiate level in terms of how things are going to be approached in the fall. And if you look at some of the Ivy Leagues, they've canceled everything so far.
Yeah, so I've seen that.
And Penn State is going to just
strictly big
conference
Big Ten
games.
Conference. Yep.
I saw a funny meme on Facebook. it was like a picture of, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air with Will Smith when they moved out of the house, and he's just standing there with no one else in the living room, and the caption was Notre Dame watching all these conferences talk about just playing in conference only. It was pretty funny.
And that's the collegiate level. So I think what we'll see immediately, since you guys being high school teachers, middle school teachers, it's at that level, I think it's equally as important, but for a different reason, for development. For development, for getting culture, for getting community with other kids your age. At the collegiate level and the NFL level, it's much more money driven, which I think you'll see the best thing play out in this country, where you'll see, okay, so we have an epidemic going on, pandemic, and people will say what they'll say about it regardless of the death rates. There's so much different information out there, but at the end of the day, now we may need to make a decision based off the best information that we have. So in the level where people are making money, can we agree that money is important, but maybe lives are more important? But is lives more important in that level of kids being between the ages of 12 to 18? Are more lives going to be affected, or people get infected at that level? Which in my opinion I think people wouldn't. I think having sports outdoors, most of these places are going to be outdoor sports in the fall. You have outdoor football, you have outdoor soccer. So I think that at that level, it's more important for different reasons than it might be for the NFL and the collegiate level. So absolutely. Be totally interested to hear what you have to say about that.
I would hate to take a season away from a high school athlete. Those are some of the most memorable. Kyler, you played basketball. Those are some of the most memorable things. And then on top of that, imagine that your season does go on and your parents can't come watch you. Or maybe you're spread out and they've reached max capacity. I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Burke, you can't come in.
Well, just imagine the part of the experience too, and I'm a basketball coach, is packing the gym and having the student section. Yeah,
I got goosebumps.
So it's taking all these aspects of the sport away, like you said.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We definitely touched on how sports affects people's mental health too, and that. So I have a lot of, I'm not a big sports guy. I don't watch sports as much as some people. I won't walk around with an Eagles hat on, or if I do, it's because I got it for free. I'm on the lesser degree of that, but there are some people that look to that every season, and you take that away from them and they have to get a new hobby, or something happens that it affects them personally. It's a whole different thing we're going to find out about. You'll see, an entire sporting event canceled, or the entire season canceled. What about their number one fans? I'm more interested to see the effects long term of just doing something like this, and how much easier it'll be for the country to do something like this if something happens again. Because I think now that we see that it's possible one time, why won't they do it again? So a lot of things in there, but that's super interesting to me. How are we gonna fix that, or if it's fixable?
Yeah. So who knows with what's going on, and things could change. So right now, fall sports are going on in our state. The NFL and a lot of these major sports are still planning on playing at the end of July. We did talk about that last episode as well. And colleges will be changing their decisions as well, or maybe more will be adding to the list of possibly not doing fall sports. But so we have benefits of being in school, but we also have risks now during this pandemic. What are the risks? What are the benefits? Do the benefits outweigh the risks? Because I'm big on building rapport with your students, right? And so I couldn't imagine just doing online, right? Not seeing your students day one, So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that it's beneficial you need to be in person, or can we do this online?
Yeah, Kyler, think back to your high school experience, and Donald and TJ, think back to your high school experience. Which teachers do you remember the most? The ones who you built relationships with, the ones who messed around with you, had fun, but yet got all the content through. And that's who you remember the most. And like you, Kyler, that's how I thrive. I thrive off making relationships with my students. I really struggled in virtual. It was, when I had my Google survey that went out at the end of the year, a lot of kids were like, well, social studies wasn't the same for the fourth quarter. It was very different. It felt like it was busy work. And I told them, I'm like, I get it, but my hands are kind of tied in that I have to get through the curriculum with you. And I only have you for 20 minutes per day virtually. So I really struggled because I could not have that rapport with my kids. And that's where that authentic, education it comes in, and that you build those relationships with the students. And I think the vast majority of my teachers in my district and teachers in general would agree. And that's why they became teachers. They want to go to work. They want to see the kids' faces. They want to talk to them about just things in general, including their curriculum, So I think it's going to be very challenging in the fall, in the future too. If we strictly go virtual, kids are going to not have those connections, and they're going to not like school as a result.
Yeah. And, I'm the same way. I'm up front trying to make corny jokes that maybe 2 or 3 students laugh at.
Sure.
And now you're doing it through videos. It's like, it doesn't have the same,
it's not the same
impact.
We can't break the tension. The tension's always there, maybe.
Yeah. So.
And my dad jokes aren't the same virtually,
Exactly. It's kind of like when you're, the late night guys that are doing those virtual late night things, there's no crowd there.
Yes.
So like they give the punchline and like there's just crickets.
Yeah.
So that's usually how it is when I tell jokes. So I'm used to it, I guess. Right.
Well, it's interesting. Now that you say that, I think about this. What about the mental health for the teachers, and what about the adherence of teachers staying in their position teaching? Would this cause teachers to straight up drop out and say, I won't do this. This is too hard. This is too much going. This is going in a direction that I don't support. Maybe, depending on the decisions made by officials, they might say to themselves, I don't want to teach this year. Maybe I'll apply when things change.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that has to happen, right?
Yeah, and that's mentally, and also like from a physical standpoint in the contact, like, we can take every precautions that we want to in the school district, but we have teachers who have parents at home who are very susceptible to this. And when we go back to school in the fall, or whenever we go back to school, they're going to have to limit their interactions with their family because they are being introduced to, in my school alone, 900 new faces.
You're right.
Well, just think about being in hallways, being in the cafeteria, all those places of close proximity. I mean, yeah, it's crazy. But also, I think it really impacts the ones that maybe, as you say, may drop out, will be the teachers that are close to retirement. Now they know, all right, I'm getting out now because I don't want to have to do this online stuff.
Sure.
So I think that group of teachers that are maybe right around retirement, this is kind of making their decision easy,
Right. Well, the cops, and when we watched the riots go on, you've seen a lot of cops drop out of their position because, completely different field. We're talking about apples and oranges, but that drastic change in how police were treated and what they had to experience every day, I saw a lot of police officers quit because now they're talking about defunding the police. In your guys' positions as teachers, it's obviously different, but that drastic change in what you have to do, it's not what you signed up for. I'm sure you guys didn't go to school back, however many years ago to virtually teach kids on a computer. That if you would do that, you would have picked something different, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
That's got to be something that's understood too. I'm interested to see how. If and I think it is that what you said was every school is getting treated differently. So I'm sure there will be schools that will go virtual. And do you think and this is a question for you, do you think there's any schools that will go, live where they will just open up and they will try to run it as a normal school? Do you think anyone will try that?
I mean, it's up to the school boards to decide what they're going to do. And I believe personally in Pennsylvania, we are going to have some districts who are going to do that. Yeah. But like you said, nobody's going to be happy with that decision.
Right.
But then, once the kids are in-house, in school, you start school August 20, whatever. How much teaching are you going to be able to accomplish? And how much pandemic policing are you going to have to do?
I made the comment, cause I teach mainly 9th grade and I'm in the high school. And I said, so now we're going to have to not only deal with cell phones in the classroom, but also people wearing masks. Yeah. So
can you imagine how many people in Pine Grove are going to start dipping when they have a mask on?
Oh my God.
You know what I mean?
Dude.
Like,
we're running all the girls will start too, probably.
Hey,
I can get away with it.
Or even writing the answers on the inside of your mask when you have a test.
Oh my God.
It's like the water bottle.
Kids will figure it out.
Yeah.
They surprise me every day for sure. So.
Jesus.
But the I think from what once again, this is just rambling. This is just from hearing other, people talk. But one option is possibly, and I think maybe rural schools will go to this, where they will open the doors and they'll say, if you don't feel comfortable and if you want to do school from home, you have that choice.
Yeah.
So you can do school from home. You can come in because maybe people don't have the same resources that it's as easy from home because maybe they only have one device and maybe they have multiple kids that have to share one device. So I think that option will be there initially. And once again, things are going to change. So I could easily see things opening up and then, maybe we're there in person for 2 weeks and then things get closed down because, there's so many questions that go into this. And like, what if a teacher gets sick? What if multiple teachers get sick? Do you have to close down the whole school? How about substitutes? You already have a substitute shortage, So there's just so many questions that really come up with all of this. And we won't really know the answers to those until things start to happen. Right.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy. Did they flatten the curve enough so that we can go back to school, or is that curve even real enough to say that we did the work we needed to do? Or is it, we've talked about this before when we think there's gonna be a second wave, right? So if schools go back in and people start walking into doors, and even if one extra person gets infected that next day, is that the breaking point? Is there a threshold, right? So like people going back to school, obviously there's gonna be more travel, more people dropping kids off school, more kids interacting with each other, going home to their parents. When parents get sick, how many parents are going to get sick to the point where we say, okay, let's close them down, right? Because, what I've seen is all the cases that come out and, it happened in Texas and Florida the past couple of weeks where their cases went up and they made different precautions. California just closed down a lot of their stuff. So they're getting into a different point where we, I think, passed. So in Pennsylvania, if kids start to go back to school and an infection rate goes up, even if it goes up by just a point or two, is that going to be enough to say, okay, we did the wrong thing, right? Or are we going to say, okay, we expect it. If the cases go up by 20%, we're good. But if they go up by 30, do we go back? So many open ends on this thing. It's just tough. It's tough to pin it down. So I guess we got a lot of time on our hands yet.
Yeah, definitely do.
So can you maybe speak to it, James, as being a father, what, like if say your daughter, right, was older and maybe in elementary school, what would be, as a parent, would you feel comfortable with your daughter being in school?
Well, that's a tough question. I haven't really thought about it. I've got a couple years to go here.
Sorry.
To start thinking about that. Well, my daughter will go to the same school district that I work at. She'll walk 200 yards to the elementary school that she's going to go to. I have a lot of faith in my school district and a lot of faith in the people who are making the decisions. I don't want to be in their position at all, but my administrators in my district they're very good. They take everything into consideration. And I think they take a lot of the teachers' concerns and questions, and they base their decisions in those factors. So it's hard to say whether I would feel comfortable or not, because I have Lancaster Catholic like 2 blocks down, or I have, virtual academy, so that's just a decision I really can't make right now.
Yeah. But and a lot of parents have to make that decision.
But everybody's got to make a decision.
Fall, yeah.
Right?
So,
exactly.
So
I'm glad I'm not making that decision.
Yeah. They'll get paid enough for that.
Yes, exactly.
Not this time around.
No.
So I guess the next place we'll go, talking about Lancaster Catholic, so public versus private. So what's the difference what differences do these schools have to face?
Well, I mean, they're not publicly funded, so they can make decisions that they want to without public influence, and that's going to help them make their decisions a lot quicker, I think. It's really tough to say. I mean, I'm a big believer in science, but we've been fed a lot of things that we don't know if the science is true, and a lot of people have questions about the science. And I'm not saying that I do, but moving forward, it's like, well, what do you believe in? You have to make the best decisions based on the science that is available to you at the moment, and it's ever changing. I mean, every week it's changing. Wear masks, don't wear masks, don't go out in public, shut down restaurants. You can't go to a bar unless you order a meal, but then you get a Lunchable.
It takes so much faith that I never really had strong faith in the people above me making the decisions, because it's hard to let someone run your life. Obviously we want to have the freedom to do what we want to do as Americans, as Pennsylvanians, as whatever you hang your hat on. But when you let somebody else make the decision for you and assume that they're right, and let's say you thought that they were right, and then now they're coming out with different information the next day, and that happens multiple times over the past couple months, you start to lean your head one way and you're like, but he said this last week. So
yes,
what do you do in that instance where you would have trusted some form of, government or some form of agency or the WHO or whoever it was for your information, and now they come out with conflicting stuff all the time, and now we're at the mercy of whatever comes out each week. It's been the most, everyone can say it's been the most stressful time for everyone involved, teachers, anyone else.
Did you mean the WHO, the singer, or the World Health Organization?
World Health Organization, baby.
I love the WHO.
Defund the WHO.
Defund the WHO.
Yeah.
The singer.
The singer. No, it's been weird. We've been doing this now for a couple of weeks with the videos and the podcast, and we go over the same things every week in some cases, but it still just absolutely blows my mind that from week to week, it's not even that, one decision was made 8 weeks ago and we've been living in that world. It's changed so many times.
It's
in the past.
An emotional roller coaster.
It's every week. And I am lucky enough that I don't get as affected emotionally. I more or less am just there with the popcorn being like, what the was that? Yeah. But there are people that it really does make a difference on. And the kids, right? I am blessed as hell that I am already out of schooling, done and, for now, got my degree, got my education, I'm done. But I am who I am because of school. I am who I am because of the past that I have. I'm sitting in this room because of it. So these kids are at a disadvantage no matter what way you cut this, no matter how you put them in that school, no matter what they do for their jobs coming next year. Businesses shutting down, less funding for this, not being able to pay them enough, putting them on welfare, which I think is a bad thing in some cases. People who get paid to do nothing, hopefully they don't, but it's hard to make that distinction from the outside in. So it's been an interesting thing, and next week it will change again too, so it's really hard for just us sitting back and me not being in teaching, seeing what's going to happen and hearing from what you think is going to happen. It just makes me even more confused than I was before.
It's not something that I'm so glad I'm not a part of those decisions. But I've always been a roll with the punches type of guy, and it's going to be interesting in the fall.
And we all feel terrible for the seniors. That was one of the things when they canceled spring sports, and you just think, back to your high school experience, what goes on in the spring, all the field trips, all the graduations. So not only high school graduation, but you have middle school, when you finish middle school, when you finish elementary school, when you finish kindergarten, you have prom, right? You have all those big moments in your high school career, and it just was ended for those students. So we just really, really feel for the students. But I do want to go back to the Lunchables.
Yeah, Lunchables. So there's a bar in Lancaster who is you walk in the door, and one of the loopholes to get around Governor Wolf's little mandate here is that when you walk in the door, you have a $2 tab to start, and they give you a Lunchable, and then you can drink as much beer as you want because you have food.
If there's a will, there's a way.
Yes.
We will figure it out. We will get drunk.
And I haven't had a Lunchable since 7th grade. So
how was it?
It was salty.
Really?
Yeah,
would you eat it again? 10 out of 10?
What drink did you have with it? Was it a fruit punch? What was the pouch drink?
No drinks. No drinks provided. Only IPAs.
Okay.
But it was saltine crackers with like a ham, very processed ham. And very processed cheese.
No.
We never talked about processed.
It was like
food,
a little bit nostalgic, so I didn't. I wouldn't eat it regularly, but going back, I was like, it's kind of different.
If you were 8 years old again, you wouldn't have cared how many processes that ham went through. You would have just slapped it. You would have been fine. No, that's funny though. I think it's great that So my brother owns 2 bars, and he is at the mercy of exactly what you just said. He's have to figure out a way to open his bars and come around the loophole that was made that we can actually sell alcohol. He can sell alcohol. So he is doing not something similar, but he's going out and buying hot dogs and just giving someone a hot dog at the door. Because it's cheap. What does a hot dog cost? 50, 25. Get them in the door, they'll spend their money on their alcohol.
They're probably good hot dogs too.
Yeah, if you're gonna be drunk, you know what I mean? Or
everybody loves a good hot dog.
Yeah.
Does he provide the ketchup, mustard?
We didn't talk about that yet. Okay. He didn't tell me, but I'm sure you could find a condiment in that place. Maybe it won't be ketchup mustard, but it'll be something.
There you go.
I don't even know what I'm saying.
So what about, we talked about students' experiences. What about the college experience? Because that's a big part of kids' lives, and a lot of colleges have made the decision to go with online learning. So what will they still? My big thing with colleges is the cost. I mean, how much it is to just be doing virtual. I mean, it seems kind of ridiculous. So will colleges be able to still charge that much? And, will students get the same experience? What do you guys think?
I'll leave this one on you.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I mean, like if I look back at my college experience, like one of the biggest things that I loved about college was the actual experience of living on campus, and experiencing, going out and just going to the library or going to class, I mean, like just having that community feel and being surrounded by people who are in a similar situation, it was something that I really bought into. Whereas if I'm at home with my parents sitting on an iPad all day, that's not something really I want to do, especially when, there's a huge job market out there for people who don't have to have a college education, laborers and people with, technical abilities to go out there and make more money and come out without debt, especially in this time right now. I mean, if I put myself back in that situation, that's where I would be. But I think a lot of college kids are adept to coming in that situation. I remember when I went to school from 2002 through 2006. I had a lot of virtual online classes even then, my freshman year, sophomore, junior, senior, that it became second nature to me. But I lived on the college campus, so it was okay. Doing that from home or wherever you're going to reside might be a little bit different.
So would you, so imagine you're a high schooler right now, you just graduated in the spring. What would you do? Would you go to college? Would you go maybe find a job? Would you join the military? What would you do? Join the military?
Personally?
Yeah. So what would you do if you were in that situation? And even Donald, you can jump in here. What would you do in that situation? Would you knowing the experience that how college was for you, would you do it this way?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of biased right now because I went to college and I was, as you were talking too, it made me think of it. But when I went to college, you get out of your home, you get out of your shell, you go and you're on your own and you get to develop as someone who gets to be on their own, regardless of paying for your own house or not. You are essentially living away from your parents. So knowing what I've experienced, that I grew and I became better at being on my own outside of my house, which I'm, thankful for, but I wouldn't trade that experience over anything. I would want to go to college, but being that I would have to stay at home and I don't have that option, I think I would probably go into a labor force or I'd go into the military. Something that I knew would give me the same experience college did, which means getting out of home, because living in your house for the first 18 years, I love my mom and dad. Shout out mom and dad for making me, but I don't want to live in my house with my parents and my 5 brothers and sisters who I grew up with. It was a beautiful experience, but at 18, I knew I was ready to get out of that thing. So imagine how all these kids feel. Okay, I've been cooped up in my house for the last year. I would be on the side that they would probably just want to get out of that thing regardless of what that means. So,
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. I mean, if I could live at the ranch, maybe I might hang out at the ranch.
Come on down.
But no, I would agree with you in that, the potential for getting out of high school, developing some sort of trade, like an internship where you learn as you go on the job and make that money without having any debt. That's probably the route I would have went. If it was 2020 and I was graduating now.
It's a hard sell, right? Because if you're, okay, the options are on the table, and I paid $52,000 a year for my private school. I'm not saying I got money, I'm paying that off. $52,000 a year for private school, but you have to sit at home on your couch, desk, whatever, and all of that is through your computer screen. So you're staring at that bad boy, let's say only 4 hours a day, and you're paying just the premium. And let's say they discounted 10 grand, 42,000, right? Or you go to a state school and it's only 20. You're paying the premium to sit in your laptop to get a very modified, hyper modified version of something that you could almost damn near get online right now. Like, I'm not saying you could learn how to do, chemistry 101A on a laptop, but you could probably get close. But, there's obviously the function of a certification and all that. But I just don't see the weight behind paying to sit on a laptop. At least even for the first semester, I would postpone it. If that means, 2021, I can go to school. Yeah. I would do that.
Yeah. I feel like the rigor of college was obviously a lot more academically challenging, but I still too developed those relationships with my college professors where I bought into what they were selling. Like, I loved going to some specific classes more towards my major because they were so passionate about it. They remind me of my high school teachers. Yeah. But like going back even to high school, like I really think if I graduated in 2020 and I had to put myself out there and make a decision in terms of what I wanted to do, I really feel like high school would have set me up to be able to enter the workforce with, I wouldn't say the technical skills, but the ability to learn those skills in the future. Right. I mean, think about our high school education. We went to a small rural school. We had great teachers. I mean, our industrial arts program, top notch, CAD program, graphic arts design. I mean, phenomenal programs. And in fact, a lot of those things I felt very confident about going into college because I had those courses that were really challenging and taught me a lot. So
I think a lot of the stuff you guys are talking about, that independence, learning kind of who you are, and the social aspect, making new friends, and whether it was that in your classes, physical classes, like just like if you're in a Zoom meeting, like with kids you don't even know, like, what do you say something to them? Do you private message them on like Zoom? I mean, it's just so strange to like just interact with people. And for someone like me, who's an extrovert who just loves being around other people and thrives off that, that's very difficult. So I mean, the college experience would also be very challenging. But like schools like Harvard, they said they're still charging, what they charge, because they're saying the education is not any different. But I mean, the education is different. It is different. The experience, and I would say that itself is different. So it's not the same experience. But I agree with you. And that's one of the tough things that schools have to deal with, whether it's colleges, whether it's high schools, middle schools, elementary schools, is how can you adapt to this and make the experiences the same? Can you do that?
No, and I don't think you could. I mean, so the normalcy of having, going to school, going to class, you can obviously bring in new technology, you can have better curriculum, but something like this, and it'll change back to what it was. It'll change back to something, I think, what was before, obviously last year, 2019, before all this hit, it'll go back to something like that. So I just think that this generation, Gen Z, whatever generation we're on right now, I just think they're going to be that generation that's going to be notoriously known for being a certain type of generation, because kind of how like the millennial generation was, we were considered lazy, right? I remember watching my first YouTube video when I was in 2010, and it was like about hiring a millennial, and the girl was sitting there like, I just don't think I'm ready for this job. Like, this is just not,
Can you believe the line at Starbucks this morning?
Exactly. Yes. You probably watched the same video I did. So they made fun of us for being lazy, but it's like, here we are, we showed up and, we made it. And I mean, at least I can say I did, but so I think that generation is going to be singled out for what the result of coronavirus has been, because it's not going to stop this fall. It might go, I think, spring in 2021. There's maybe when a vaccine comes out and everyone can sleep at night, right? Then people might say, okay, it's over, put this behind us. Let's never think about 2020 ever again. But until that day, I think the year and a half span of all of this taking course, it'll just affect that generation so significantly. It'll be like what we talked about the one podcast, like the baby boomers, how they were all messed up from the depression when they just penny pinched. They all inevitably save money because they watch their parents lose it. So it'll affect them in a similar way, where they might be just hyper vigilant towards getting sick and, washing your hands and wearing a mask.
Will people wear masks for the next 10 years?
Oh, I'm sure.
There's going to be people.
It'll be like Japan.
And it's new. Yeah, exactly. It's new for America. It's something brand new where, other nations have previously done it out of courtesy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've also talked about culturally, some of those very dense cities. If you look all over the world, if you look at Japan and China, if you look, down in Santiago, Chile, a lot of those densely populated cities, people wear masks because of the air pollution, and their cases in some of those cities aren't nearly as bad because they're used to wearing masks because from pollution, not from viruses. But yeah, so that's something that we'll see. What are those impacts going to be, the future impacts for society? That'll be interesting. So the last thing that I want to talk about is what I think is involved with everything. Money. So how does money play a role in this, James?
I don't got an answer for that.
Oh my God, no. Thank you.
I told you.
We're just going to keep going to.
Yeah. Well, when you think about our economy right now, nobody has an answer for it. The government, state, local, a lot of people are struggling right now. A lot of people are doing very well. But just thinking about it from our previous discussions with school, when our president's telling us that he's going to cut federal funding for a school district, threatening that if we do not reopen, that money is going to be not delivered. Is it an empty threat? Is it, it's really a tough situation. I'm not very versed on the economy. From a personal perspective, I mean, I see what people, how they want to spend money, but from a national standpoint, I'm not very versed in that.
And you look at schools, so if schools do reopen, they may need things like sanitizer, they may need masks, they may need just equipment, to help the spread of this. So schools that do have in-person learning, so they close. So say they have students 2 days, then they have to clean down the entire campus, right? So where does that money come from, right? So, and that's something that you talked about. The federal government, we do get money from state government, but right now the federal government's kind of this tussle where a lot of the funding is going to private schools, charter schools, and not public schools. So, and possibly not getting any funding from the federal government. How are schools going to be able to pay for this? So that's certainly a challenge, especially if you want to be in the schools and they need to clean the schools every week. That's an added bill that the schools now have to pay. If they need to get, devices, or they need to get things to help students learn. I mean, there's just so many variables when it comes to money in schools, and whether they're funded or not. And, unfortunately, you need the money. If you don't have the money, you can't,
efficiently do it.
Yeah.
And in high school, in our state, are the sports funded by the schools? They are funded by the schools. Obviously, there's not an external driver other than maybe like sales for stadium food and stuff like that, right?
And stuff like that,
boosters. So if it's only funded, so sports are funded by the schools, and then schools also have to pay their teachers. Schools also have to pay for X, Y, and Z. And they only get a certain amount of money. Now that certain amount doesn't change, or maybe it goes up by a little bit, but I'm sure that if what you're talking about, they have to sanitize the schools or abide by some form of preventive measure for people getting sick, wouldn't that mean that a certain allocation of money needs to go to some more important things, which would mean less things at the bottom, which might be sports, which might be arts, which might be some things that kids would absolutely love to be a part of outside of and I think you said this word earlier, but like a very work-oriented load, as opposed to maybe a fun, you said about your class. So I know when I was in school, I looked forward to going to my, it was my fitness and health class. It was first year they had it. It was 8th period. But all I did was pretty much work out and hang out with my friends and run around. So that class in 2020 probably won't be a class, right? Because why would they would need a teacher for that period, because we don't have enough to pay him to watch kids run around. But you know what? That was my favorite class, and I still got my work done, and I got all A's. You take that away from me, now I'm a little bit more irritated.
Sure, absolutely. And so, he's saying that gym is going to be available, because maybe the administration will make some of those classes be in more spread out areas, which is the auditorium and the gym. So where are those health and PE classes going to go?
Right. And I had I actually had to argue with my principal when I was in high school, because you were only allowed to have 4 gym credits. And I had already got my first 4 gym credits in my freshman and sophomore year, but I talked her into giving me 4 more. Don't know how I did it. Maybe that's how I got so good at negotiating. But she gave me 4 more, and I had 8 total classes, which I probably didn't need that many. I know I didn't, but I don't get those. Let's say the arts classes go away, or, now kids don't have culinary arts classes. Those are the sweet things in high school that I do remember. So you take those away, those memories are gone for me. The only thing I get to remember is sitting in classes and jawing on information, or maybe I'm at home now and it's just a different change. I just can't picture for myself. I don't know what to say about this generation, but it's gonna be a tough one. It is gonna be a tough one.
And that's where students get to be themselves.
Yeah, right? Expression, absolutely.
In those elective classes, right? They get to do the things they love. Whether
or they find their passion.
Yes,
there.
and clubs, even clubs, or like the musical. The musical wasn't able to play in the spring. Yeah. So I mean, that's something that a lot of kids are passionate about, and maybe they want to find a career in the arts, and to have that taken away from them, and possibly classes taken away, because of lack of funding. That's something that really hurts the experience for the students. So hopefully, our hope is that schools are going to be funded through this, and we can get through this together. So, but now we're gonna go to our final thoughts. Thank you guys for a great discussion on schools and reopening. So we'll stay tuned. We'll see what happens with school districts. But now we'll go to final thoughts, and we'll go to our guest James first.
Sure. Well, I pretty much think we've discussed. You beat a dead horse with school.
It's a tough one.
And nobody knows what's going to happen, and we're just going to have to roll with the punches when it comes. But brought a gift for you guys. So,
what? Oh, wow.
Little gift here, and every other guest is going to have to bring something.
We like that. That's fun.
Yeah. But it's kind of large.
Oh, wow. I'm excited about this. You even got the knife for it, too.
I come prepared.
Go slow. Do you need help with this guy?
I'll be able to pull it out here on the side here.
Oh my God, dude.
That is awesome.
Wow.
They got some new decor for your wall.
Is awesome.
Not bad, brother.
Absolutely.
That is beautiful.
And I didn't paint it, so you guys can paint it or leave it raw.
Let me see this thing.
That looks great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Now that is legit.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a fun time.
James, I don't know what to say, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Bob. Anytime, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's a good time.
I don't know how to follow that.
How do you follow that up?
I don't have any gifts for you. This is just, I'm in awe right now. But I mean, I'll just kind of wrap up what we kind of already been talking about. I don't know much about the teachers and what they have to go through. I don't know about what the schools have to go through. I've been out of that for a long time, but being on the outside looking in, I am who I am because of what I went through. I am what I am because of the schooling I got, the teachers and the friends I met. And I just hope seeing this podcast and having the people watch at home, they see something like this and realize that this is happening, and that their involvement or their active understanding of what's going on will spark their interest in maybe finding out more about what they can do at home or what they can do from the outside looking in. Homeschooling is a big option. Not saying that school isn't important, but having your parents and your brothers and sisters home with you to school is completely valid. And that's what I went through. I was homeschooled from the ages of, from the grades of 3rd grade to 8th grade. So I was homeschooled for 6 years. And I loved every second of that, which, if somebody was curious about something like that, reach out, ask me more about that. I'd love to tell you. And if, you have the option to, give your kid the best, this is a time I think where people are going to realize that if they can't rely on the schools and what the schools are offering right now, that there are options, but it's going to take some time, and it's also going to take some involvement. So I just hope that we can get some people to get more interested in stuff like this, and to reach out and interact and try to find out more. So that's my final thought for you guys.
Thanks, Donald. And thanks, James. Thank you for that gift. That's awesome.
Thank you for having me.
My final thought, just have an open mind with everything. Please have an open mind when schools make those tough decisions. No matter what they decide, people will be unhappy about it. As I talk about when I teach, try to put yourself in the shoes of others and just listen and try to understand. No matter what it is, politics, jobs, whatever, listen and have an open mind. Thank you guys. That's our show. Stay tuned, stay happy, and we'll see you later.